Garrett's eyelids fluttered open, his vision blurry and unfocused. The harsh metallic gleam that greeted him was a far cry from the dingy white ceiling of his Omaha apartment. He blinked rapidly, willing his eyes to adjust to the brightness that seemed to emanate from every surface. "What the hell?" he muttered, pushing himself up on his elbows. The bed beneath him was unnaturally soft, molding to his body like memory foam on steroids. As his gaze swept across the room, his jaw dropped. Sleek curved walls pulsed with a faint blue light, and what appeared to be a window revealed a breathtaking vista of stars against the inky blackness of space. Garrett scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. "This can't be real," he whispered, pressing his palms against the cool metallic wall. The surface hummed beneath his touch, sending a tingling sensation up his arms. A melodic chime filled the air, followed by a disembodied voice. "Good morning, Garrett. Please proceed to the main deck for orientation." He spun around, searching for the source of the voice. "Who are you? Where am I?" Silence greeted his questions. Garrett ran a hand through his disheveled brown hair, his mind racing. The last thing he remembered was falling asleep in his own bed after a long day at the engineering firm. How had he ended up wherever this was? With no other apparent options, Garrett cautiously made his way to what he assumed was the door. It slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a curved corridor bathed in the same ethereal blue light. He hesitated for a moment before stepping out, his bare feet padding silently on the smooth floor. As he navigated the twisting passageways, Garrett's engineer's mind couldn't help but marvel at the advanced technology surrounding him. The ship, if that's what it was, seemed to hum with an energy he couldn't quite comprehend. Finally, he emerged into a vast, circular room. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of space, dotted with unfamiliar constellations and swirling nebulae. In the center stood a striking woman with alabaster skin and hair the color of starlight, her piercing silver eyes locked onto Garrett, a hint of amusement playing at the corners of her mouth. "Welcome aboard, Garrett," she said, her voice rich and melodious. "I'm Eva, your host for this unique experience." Garrett's brow furrowed. "Host? What experience? I demand to know what's going on." Eva's lips curved into a smirk. My, aren't we feisty for someone who just woke up in a strange place?" She gestured to a nearby chair. "Why don't you have a seat? All will be explained shortly." Reluctantly, Garrett lowered himself into the chair, which adjusted to cradle his body perfectly. "Fine. Start talking." Eva began to pace, her movements fluid and graceful. "You, Garrett Thompson, have been chosen as the latest contestant on The Ideal Male, the Galaxy's most popular reality show." Garrett blinked. "Galaxy's most... what? Is this some kind of joke?" "I assure you it's no joke," Eva replied, her tone serious despite the glint of amusement in her eyes. "You're about to embark on a series of challenges designed to prove your worth as a potential mate for some of the most desirable females in the known universe." Garrett's mind reeled. "But I'm just an engineer from Nebraska. There has to be some mistake." Eva shook her head. "No mistake. Our selection process is quite thorough. You possess qualities that make you an ideal candidate for our show." "And what if I refuse to participate?" Garrett challenged, crossing his arms over his chest. Eva's smile turned predatory. "I'm afraid that's not an option, dear Garrett. You signed the contract, after all." "I never signed anything," he protested. "Oh, but you did," Eva countered, producing a holographic display with a flick of her wrist. "Right here, in fact. 3 months ago, after a night of heavy drinking with your colleagues." Garrett squinted at the document, recognizing his scrawled signature at the bottom. That's impossible. I don't remember any of this." "Memory modification is a standard part of the process," Eva explained nonchalantly. "Can't have our contestants preparing in advance now, can we?" Garrett's head spun. He gripped the arms of the chair, trying to ground himself in reality, or whatever passed for reality in this bizarre situation. "So what exactly am I supposed to do?" Eva's eyes lit up. "I'm so glad you asked. You'll face a series of challenges designed to showcase your skills, intelligence, and adaptability. These trials will determine your suitability as a breeding partner for our esteemed contestants." Breeding partner? Garrett sputtered, his face flushing. I'm not some stud horse, Eva tisked. Such a crude analogy. This is a sophisticated matchmaking process, Garrett. And who knows? You might even enjoy yourself. Before Garrett could formulate a response, a panel slid open in the wall, and three women entered the room. Garrett's jaw dropped as he took in their otherworldly beauty. The first to approach was a statuesque blonde with eyes like amethysts, her gaze seeming to pierce right through him. I'm Lyra, she purred, her voice like liquid honey. I do hope you're as clever as they say you are. I do so enjoy a man who can keep up with me. Intellectually, of course. Her wink sent a shiver down Garrett's spine. Next came a fiery redhead, her hair seeming to crackle with energy. She fixed Garrett with a challenging stare. Name's Ember, she declared, her tone brusque. Don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're new to all this. The last to step forward was a petite brunette with eyes that seemed to shift color like oil on water. She didn't speak, but Garrett felt a gentle probe at the edges of his consciousness. I am Miu, a soft voice whispered in his mind. Please forgive my silence. I find verbal communication challenging at times. Garrett's head swam as he tried to process the three stunning aliens before him. It's nice to meet you all, he stammered, cursing his sudden inability to form coherent sentences. Eva clapped her hands together. Excellent. Now that introductions are out of the way, it's time for your first challenge, Garrett. He tore his gaze away from the contestants. Already? But I just woke up. I don't even know where I am or how any of this works. No time like the present, Eva chirped. With a wave of her hand, the room transformed. The starry view outside the windows faded, replaced by what looked like a high-tech kitchen. Your first task is simple, Eva explained. Prepare the perfect intergalactic burger. You have 1 hour. The ingredients are, well, let's just say they're not what you're used to. Good luck. Garrett stared at the array of bizarre items before him. What looked like pulsating purple tentacles writhed next to glowing green spheres. A gelatinous mass quivered ominously in a nearby bowl. This is insane, he muttered, picking up what he hoped was some kind of spatula. I can barely make toast without burning it. As he fumbled with the alien ingredients, Garrett could feel the eyes of the contestants on him. Lyra watched with obvious amusement, while Ember seemed to be analyzing his every move. Miu's gaze was unfocused, but he could sense her presence in his mind, a gentle curiosity probing at his thoughts. Halfway through his allotted time, Garrett thought he might actually be making progress. He'd managed to form something resembling a patty and had even figured out how to operate the strange, hovering grill. Not bad, he mumbled, flipping the burger. Maybe I can actually pull this off. That's when he noticed the small, iridescent bottle tucked away in the corner of the workstation. The label was in an alien script, but a helpful holographic display translated it to Zestiest Sauce in the Galaxy. Garrett grinned. Perfect. This'll give it that extra kick. He unscrewed the cap and liberally doused his creation with the sauce. The moment the liquid hit the sizzling patty, a blinding flash erupted from the grill. Garrett stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. When the spots cleared from his vision, he saw flames engulfing his workstation. The contestants gasped, and Eva's eyes widened in shock. Oh shit, Garrett breathed. He looked around frantically, spotting what appeared to be a high-tech fire extinguisher on the wall. Without hesitation, he lunged for it, praying he could figure out how it worked before the entire room went up in flames. As he battled the blaze, Garrett couldn't help but wonder if this was how his galactic adventure would end. Incinerated by a burger before he'd even had a chance to explore the stars. Garrett's heart raced as he wrestled with the alien fire extinguisher. His fingers fumbled over unfamiliar controls, precious seconds ticking by as the flames licked higher. With a desperate twist, he activated the device, and a stream of shimmering blue foam erupted from its nozzle. Come on, he muttered, sweeping the extinguisher back and forth. The alien substance seemed to devour the flames, leaving behind a mess of smoky, iridescent residue. As the last embers died, Garrett sagged against the workstation, panting heavily. Slow applause broke the tense silence. Garrett looked up to see Eva approaching, a wry smile on her face. Well, that was certainly exciting, she drawled. Not quite what we had in mind for the challenge, but I must say, your quick thinking was impressive. Garrett straightened, wiping sweat from his brow. Thanks, I think. So, do I get a do-over on the burger? Eva laughed, a sound like tinkling crystals. Oh, darling, this is reality television. The show must go on. She turned to address the contestants. Ladies, what did you think of our Earthmail's performance? Lyra sauntered forward, her violet eyes sparkling with amusement. Well, he certainly knows how to heat things up, she purred, trailing a finger along Garrett's arm. He suppressed a shiver at her touch. I do love a man who can handle unexpected eruptions. Ember snorted, tossing her fiery mane. Please, anyone can start a fire. Putting it out? That's the real test. She fixed Garrett with an appraising look. Not bad, Earthling. You've got decent reflexes, at least. Mew remained silent, but Garrett felt a gentle brush against his mind. Your adaptability is admirable, her thoughts whispered. Many would have panicked in such a situation. Garrett cleared his throat, unsure how to respond to the mix of flirtation, grudging respect, in telepathic communication. Thanks. I guess I work well under pressure? Eva clapped her hands, drawing everyone's attention. All right, that's enough excitement for now. Garrett, why don't you get cleaned up? We'll meet back here in an hour for your next challenge. As Garrett made his way back to his quarters, his mind whirled. The adrenaline from the fire was fading, leaving him exhausted and overwhelmed. He stripped off his smoke-stained clothes and stepped into what he hoped was a shower. Warm, lavender-scented mist enveloped him, seeming to wash away not just the grime, but some of his stress as well. Feeling refreshed, Garrett donned the sleek, form-fitting outfit that had materialized in his room. He studied his reflection in the mirror, barely recognizing the man staring back at him. You can do this, he told his reflection sternly. You're an engineer. Problem-solving is what you do. When he returned to the main deck, Garrett found it transformed once again. Gone was the kitchen, replaced by what looked like a futuristic workshop. Gleaming tools and strange devices lined the walls, and in the center sat a large, cylindrical object. Eva greeted him with a predatory smile. Welcome back, Garrett. Ready for your next test? He squared his shoulders, determined to redeem himself. Bring it on. Garrett wiped the sweat from his brow, staring at the mangled mess of wires and circuits before him. The ship's auxiliary engine lay in pieces, a victim of what Eva had cryptically called interdimensional turbulence. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Fix this with dental floss and chewing gum? What am I, MacGyver in space? Eva's voice crackled over the intercom, dripping with amusement. Time's ticking, Garrett. Remember, the fate of the ship and the show rests in your capable hands. Garrett gritted his teeth, surveying the meager supplies at his disposal. His mind raced, piecing together improbable solutions. With a deep breath, he set to work, weaving strands of ultra-strong alien dental floss into a makeshift conducting wire. As he worked, Garrett felt a shift in his demeanor. The initial panic had faded, replaced by a calm focus he'd never experienced before. His hands moved with newfound confidence, jury-rigging connections and patching circuits with strips of gum that hardened into a surprisingly effective sealant. An hour later, Garrett stepped back, surveying his handiwork. The engine hummed to life, bathing the room in a soft blue glow. He allowed himself a triumphant grin. Well, I'll be damned, Eva's voice purred through the speakers. You continue to surprise me, Earthling. Garrett's chest swelled with pride. What can I say? I work well under pressure. As he exited the engine room, he found Lyra waiting for him, her violet eyes sparkling with intrigue. Impressive work in there, she murmured, stepping closer. I do love a man who's good with his hands. Garrett felt a blush creep up his neck, but he didn't back away. Instead, he met her gaze with a confidence that surprised even himself. Oh, yeah? Well, these hands are pretty versatile. Maybe I could show you sometime. Lyra's laugh was like tinkling crystals. Careful, Garrett. I might just take you up on that offer. Over the next few days, Garrett found himself thriving in the bizarre world of intergalactic reality TV. Each challenge pushed him to his limits, but he met them with growing assurance and even a touch of swagger. During a rare moment of downtime, Lyra cornered him in the ship's observation deck. You know, she purred, I've been meaning to teach you how to dance in zero gravity. Care for a lesson? Before Garrett could respond, she activated a panel on the wall. The room's artificial gravity disengaged, and they floated gently off the floor. Whoa! Garrett yelped, flailing his arms. Lyra laughed, gracefully gliding toward him. Relax, she murmured, taking his hands. Let your body flow with the absence of weight. Like this. She guided him through a series of fluid movements, their bodies twirling and spinning in the weightless environment. Garrett found himself lost in the ethereal dance, mesmerized by Lyra's grace and the star field spinning beyond the windows. As the dance ended, they floated face to face, breathless and laughing. Lyra's eyes locked onto his, a heat in her gaze that sent a jolt through Garrett's body. For a moment, he thought she might kiss him, but then the gravity re-engaged, and the spell was broken. Not bad for a beginner, Lyra teased, smoothing her hair. We'll make a cosmic dancer out of you yet. The next challenge came in the form of Ember's hunting expedition. Garrett found himself on an alien world, dense jungle stretching as far as the eye could see. Ember tossed him a wicked-looking spear, her eyes glinting with excitement. Try not to get yourself killed, she smirked. These Zygonian beastworms have a nasty habit of sneaking up on their prey. As if on cue, the undergrowth rustled ominously. Garrett's grip tightened on the spear, his heart pounding. A massive, segmented form burst from the foliage, mandibles clicking hungrily. Garrett, look out! Ember shouted, but he was already moving. With a yell that surprised even himself, Garrett lunged forward, driving the spear into the creature's hide. It thrashed wildly, nearly knocking him off his feet, but he held firm. Ember was at his side in an instant, her own weapon flashing. Together they brought the beast down, panting and splattered with its fluorescent ichor. Not bad, Earthling, Ember grinned, clapping him on the back. You've got more fight in you than I gave you credit for. Garrett returned her smile, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Guess I'm full of surprises. The connection with Mew came unexpectedly. Garrett was in his quarters, trying to meditate after a particularly grueling challenge, when he felt a gentle probe at the edges of his consciousness. May I join you? Mew's thoughts whispered. Garrett hesitated, then mentally nodded. Sure, come on in. What followed was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Mew guided him through a telepathic landscape, showing him wonders beyond imagination. He saw the birth of stars, the dance of subatomic particles, the intricate patterns of alien ecosystems. When the connection faded, Garrett opened his eyes to find tears streaming down his face. Mew sat across from him, a soft smile on her lips. That was incredible, he breathed. Thank you for sharing your mind with me. Mew's thoughts caressed his. Your species has such fascinating perspectives. As the competition progressed, Garrett found himself increasingly drawn to Eva. Her wit, her enigmatic smile, the way she seemed to see right through his bravado, it all intrigued him in a way he couldn't quite explain. During a technical malfunction that paused filming, Eva surprised him with an offer. Care for a little off-the-record excursion? She asked, a mischievous glint in her eye. There's a rather fascinating planet nearby I've been meaning to explore. Garrett didn't hesitate. Lead the way. They materialized on a world that defied description. Crystalline trees stretched toward a lavender sky, their leaves chiming softly in the alien breeze. Bioluminescent creatures flitted through the air, leaving trails of multicolored light. As they explored, Garrett found himself opening up to Eva in a way he hadn't with anyone else on the ship. They swapped stories, laughed at the absurdity of their situation, and marveled at the alien beauty surrounding them. At one point, they paused atop a cliff overlooking a shimmering ocean. Eva turned to him, her starlight hair dancing in the breeze. You're not what I expected, Garrett Thompson, she said softly. Garrett met her gaze, his heart thundering in his chest. Is that a good thing? Eva's smile was enigmatic. I haven't decided yet. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken possibility. But before either could act, Eva's communicator chimed. Duty calls, she sighed. Back to reality, or what passes for it in our little corner of the galaxy. As they prepared to return to the ship, Garrett felt a pang of doubt. The game, the competition, the whole premise of the show. It all seemed suddenly hollow in comparison to this genuine connection he'd formed with Eva. Back on the ship, tensions simmered between the contestants. Lyra, Ember, and Mew had clearly noticed Garrett's growing rapport with each of them, and with Eva. Their flirtations became more overt, their competition for his attention more pointed. "Oh, Garrett," Lyra called, sauntering into the common area where he sat. "I was thinking we could have another dance lesson, in private this time." She shot a smug look at Ember and Mew. Ember snorted. "Please, Garrett needs some real excitement. How about another hunting trip? I promise to keep you safe from any big bad aliens." Her tone made it clear that keeping safe might involve some close physical contact. Perhaps Garrett would prefer a deeper connection, Mew's thoughts chimed in. "I could show you parts of your own mind you've never explored." Garrett's head spun as he tried to navigate the competing offers. "Ladies, I'm flattered, really, but maybe we could—" He was cut off by Eva's voice over the intercom. "Attention contestants, it's time for our most exciting challenge yet, the Intergalactic Olympics." The next hours were a blur of chaos. Garrett found himself competing in events that defied the laws of physics as he understood them. There was anti-gravity gymnastics, where a misstep could send you hurtling into the void. Quantum archery involved hitting targets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Throughout it all, Garrett could feel the escalating rivalry between Lyra, Ember, and Mew. They pushed themselves to extremes, each trying to outdo the others and impress him in the process. It all came to a head during the final event, a relay race through a series of rapidly shifting pocket dimensions. Garrett was in the lead, pushing himself to his limits, when he heard a scream behind him. He skidded to a halt, turning to see Lyra trapped in a section of reversing gravity, about to be crushed against the ceiling. Ember and Mayu were closer, but they hesitated, the competition overriding their instinct to help. Without thinking, Garrett sprinted back, ignoring the shifting gravity that threatened to tear him apart. He reached Lyra just as the gravity reversed again, grabbing her hand and pulling her to safety as the dimension collapsed around them. They materialized back on the ship in a tangle of limbs, panting and disoriented. Eva's voice cut through the chaos. "And that's a wrap on today's challenge. Quite the exciting finish, wouldn't you say?" As the adrenaline faded, Garrett looked around at the faces of the contestants. Lyra's gratitude, Ember's grudging respect, Mew's quiet admiration, and beyond them, Eva, watching him with an unreadable expression. In that moment, Garrett realized just how much had changed. He was no longer the bumbling engineer from Omaha, in over his head in an alien world. He'd found strength he never knew he possessed, forged connections that defied explanation, and perhaps even stumbled upon something real in this artificial universe of reality TV. But as the contestants were ushered away for post-game interviews, Garrett caught Eva's eye. The spark between them was undeniable, and it filled him with both excitement and dread, because he was beginning to suspect that the greatest challenge of this whole experience might have nothing to do with the game at all. Garrett stood in the center of a pristine, futuristic apartment, his heart pounding. The final challenge of the ideal male had begun, a series of simulated life experiences with each contestant. As the room shimmered and transformed around him, Garrett steeled himself for what was to come. First came Lyra, materializing in a swirl of violet light. The apartment morphed into a luxurious penthouse on an alien world, its windows revealing a cityscape of impossible architecture. "Welcome home, darling," Lyra purred, sauntering towards him. "Shall we start with dinner? Or dessert?" Her eyes sparkled with mischief. Garrett played along, sharing a meal of exotic delicacies and engaging in witty banter. Yet as the simulation progressed, he felt a nagging emptiness. Lyra was stunning, intelligent, and charming, but something crucial was missing. The scene dissolved, replaced by a rugged wilderness. Ember appeared, outfitted for an expedition. "There you are," she exclaimed. "The Zygonian beastworms are migrating. We need to move if we want to catch the action." Their simulated life together was a whirlwind of adventure and passion. Garrett found himself exhilarated by the constant challenges, the thrill of exploration. But in quiet moments, he longed for something more. The final simulation with Mew was unlike anything Garrett had experienced. They existed in a realm of pure thought and emotion, their minds intertwined in a dance of ideas and sensations. It was beautiful, transcendent, and ultimately not quite real. As the last simulation faded, Garrett found himself back in the stark white room where it had all begun. Eva stood before him, her silver eyes unreadable. "Well, Garrett," she said softly, "you've experienced potential futures with each contestant. The time has come to make your choice." Garrett's mind raced. He thought of Lyra's charm, Ember's fire, Mu's depth. Each offered a unique and exciting future. But as he looked at Eva, something clicked into place. Every simulation, every challenge, every moment of this bizarre journey, none of it compared to the genuine connection he felt with her. I I can't do this," Garrett said, his voice shaky but gaining strength. "The truth is, I don't choose any of them." Eva's eyebrow arched. "Oh? And why is that?" Garrett took a deep breath, acutely aware of the cameras surrounding them. "Because my heart already belongs to someone else. To you, Eva." The room fell silent. Eva's composed facade cracked, genuine surprise flashing across her face. "Garrett, this isn't part of the show. You can't—" "I don't care about the show anymore," Garrett interrupted, stepping closer. "Every challenge, every trial, they all led me to this realization. You're the one I want to explore the galaxy with, Eva. You challenge me, surprise me, make me want to be better. I think I'm falling in love with you." Chaos erupted. Alarms blared as producers rushed onto the set, shouting about contract violations and ratings disasters. The other contestants materialized, their expressions a mix of shock, anger, and in Mu's case, quiet understanding. But Garrett only had eyes for Eva. She stood frozen, conflict warring in her silver gaze. Then slowly a smile spread across her face. "Oh, what the hell," she murmured, and pulled Garrett into a passionate kiss. The uproar intensified, but Garrett barely noticed. As they broke apart, breathless, Eva's eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and genuine affection. "You know this breaks every rule in the book, right?" Garrett grinned. "Since when have either of us cared much for rules?" Eva laughed, a sound of pure joy that sent shivers down Garrett's spine. "Fair point. So what now?" Before Garrett could respond, a booming voice filled the room. "This is an outrage. Security, detain them both. The show must continue." Eva's expression hardened. "Time to go," she said, grabbing Garrett's hand. With a few quick taps on her wrist device, the world around them shimmered and dissolved. They materialized in a small hangar bay, a sleek spacecraft waiting before them. "Can you fly this thing?" Garrett asked as they raced toward it. Eva's grin was positively wicked. "Honey, I can fly anything. Hold on tight." The next hours were a blur of exhilaration and terror. They outran security drones, navigated treacherous asteroid fields, and pulled off a daring wormhole jump that left Garrett's stomach somewhere in another dimension. Through it all, Eva piloted with a skill that bordered on precognition, her laughter ringing out with each narrow escape. Finally, they emerged in a distant sector of the galaxy, far beyond the reach of the show's influence. Eva set the ship down on a small, uninhabited planet, its surface a riot of bioluminescent flora. As they stepped out onto alien soil, the reality of their situation began to sink in. "We're fugitives now, aren't we?" Garrett mused, gazing up at unfamiliar constellations. Eva nodded, intertwining her fingers with his. "Intergalactic outlaws, on the run from the most powerful entertainment conglomerate in the known universe. Having second thoughts?" Garrett turned to her, drinking in the sight of her starlight hair dancing in the alien breeze. "Not a chance. This is the greatest adventure of my life." In the weeks that followed, Garrett and Eva explored wonders beyond imagination. They danced on the rings of gas giants, shared meals with silicon-based life forms, and watched the birth of stars from the edge of cosmic nurseries. With each new experience, their bond deepened, transcending the artificial constraints of the show that had brought them together. One evening, as they lounged on a beach of shimmering black sand, Eva turned to Garrett with a serious expression. "You know, there's still a lot you don't know about me, about what I am." Garrett propped himself up on an elbow, studying her face. "I'm listening." Eva took a deep breath. "I'm not entirely organic. The producers created me as the perfect host, part AI, part genetically engineered life form. I'm not sure I even qualify as a species in the traditional sense. Garrett absorbed this information, then reached out to caress her cheek. Eva, I fell in love with who you are, not what you are. Nothing could change that. Tears glistened in Eva's silver eyes. How did a simple engineer from Omaha become the most extraordinary being I've ever met? Their kiss was electric, charged with the energy of newfound honesty and deepening intimacy. As they made love under alien stars, Garrett marveled at how far he'd come from his ordinary life on Earth. But their idyllic escape couldn't last forever. News of their daring flight had spread across the galaxy, making them celebrities in their own right. Bounty hunters and paparazzi drones dogged their steps, forcing them to constantly stay on the move. During a close call on a crowded spaceport, Eva pulled Garrett into a shadowy alcove. "This can't go on forever," she whispered, her eyes filled with concern. "We need a plan." Garrett nodded, his mind racing. What if we turn the tables on them, use their own game against them? Eva's eyebrow arched. "I'm intrigued. Go on." Over the next few days, they hatched a daring scheme. Using Eva's insider knowledge and Garrett's engineering skills, they cobbled together a broadcasting rig capable of hijacking the show's signal. When everything was in place, they sent out a galaxy-wide transmission. Garrett's face filled screens across countless worlds. "Greetings, sentient beings of the universe," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "You may know me as the human who fell in love with his alien host and ran away from the ideal male. But there's so much more to our story." What followed was a heartfelt account of their journey, the challenges they'd faced, the wonders they'd witnessed, and the love that had blossomed between them. Garrett spoke of breaking down barriers between species, of looking beyond surface differences to find genuine connections. "We're not running anymore," he concluded. "We're inviting you all to join us on a new kind of adventure, one that celebrates diversity, exploration, and the infinite possibilities of the universe." The response was beyond anything they could have imagined. Beings from across the galaxy rallied to their cause, offering support and solidarity. The entertainment conglomerate, faced with a PR nightmare, had no choice but to back down. In the end, Garrett and Eva found themselves at the helm of a new kind of show, one that focused on genuine exploration and fostering understanding between different species and cultures. As they prepared for their first official broadcast, Garrett pulled Eva close. "Ready for our next great adventure?" he asked, grinning. Eva's laugh was like stardust. "With you? Always." The camera lights blinked on, and Garrett felt a familiar thrill of excitement. He'd come so far from that confused engineer who'd woken up on an alien ship. Now, with the love of his life by his side and an entire galaxy to explore, he knew that the greatest chapters of his story were still to come. "Welcome, citizens of the cosmos," Eva began, her voice ringing with warmth and possibility. "Let's explore the universe together." As they launched into their first segment, Garrett squeezed Eva's hand. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever wonders awaited them in the vast expanse of space, he knew that they would face them together, two unlikely souls who had found love among the stars.